Denali balanced the tray on his hand as he walked into the west sitting room. Ken Schaefer, the president's son, and Professor Duval, his tutor, sat at the elegant mahogany table that probably cost more than Denali made in a year. It had replaced the equally expensive antique couches when Ken had come home from college and the president and first lady had hired a private tutor for him. Still, this room was one of the lighter and cozier rooms with its pale yellow drapes, cream-colored paneling, and furniture in pastel colors. And the famous half-moon Tiffany window was spectacular in and of itself, though the view outside wasn't all that grand. Drab buildings. But all in all, Denali would much prefer something less formal for himself any day, and less expensive. The fear of accidentally damaging an expensive piece of furniture here was real. Both men looked up as Denali came close. These two never made him feel invisible, and he appreciated them for it. The Schaefer family in general was super grateful for the work Denali and the other staff did to take care of them in the White House residence. "Can I get you anything else?" Denali asked as he put down the latte in front of Ken, then served Professor Duval his tea. A small plate with home-baked cookies completed it, courtesy of Mrs. Morelli. She ran the informal kitchen and was, in Denali's humble opinion, the best baker in the world. Plus, she was amazingly sweet and supportive. It was like having an extra grandmother. "Thank you." The professor never failed to be polite. Denali liked him, and not only because he treated the White House staff with kindness. He was smart, his lessons were captivating, and from the snippets Denali had caught, he was teaching the law in a way that emphasized systemic injustices built into the system. "No, we're good, thanks," Ken said, sending a shy smile in Denali's direction. Denali smiled back, then retreated into the adjoining kitchen. He and Ken, the president's son, had insisted Denali call him by his first name, and after a conversation with Francis, the head butler, Denali had gotten permission, had chatted a few times now. They got along well. Ken was shy, and Denali wasn't the most outgoing person himself, so he could relate. He couldn't imagine how hard it had to be for Ken to be the president's son, to constantly have this gigantic spotlight focused on him. If nothing else, Ken deserved empathy for that. "Did they want anything else?" Mrs. Morelli asked. "No, they're all set for now." "Good. I'll make sure to bake more oatmeal cookies. The professor seems to like those." "He does. Ken prefers your chocolate chip cookies." Her eyes twinkled. "Young Mr. Schaefer is fond of them, isn't he? Well, so is his father. The president thinks I don't know he raids them from the stash I leave for the Secret Service, but I've got my eye on him. I'm making extra now so the agents won't get cheated out of their cookies." She winked at Denali. "You're the best, Mrs. Morelli. Little escapes you." "Very little," she confirmed, studying him for a moment. "I'm glad to see you and young Mr. Schaefer connecting. Seems to me you could both use a friend." Denali sighed, taking a cookie from the box she held open for him. "Snickerdoodles, yummy." "Maybe. I mean, I like him well enough, and we seem to click, but I'm not sure how to navigate a deeper friendship with him. I foresee a lot of complications." "He's lonely," Mrs. Morelli said, her tone warm and maternal. "That boy is plain lonely. He needs a friend, and right now, with things locked down the way they are, he's got no one else but the people working here." Denali nibbled on his cookie. Mrs. Morelli wasn't wrong, but did she fully appreciate how tricky the whole situation was? "I know, but I don't want to lose my job here. And Mr. Fennell seems awfully strict." Mr. Fennell was the chief usher, the manager of the residence. He'd been the one to hire Denali a year before, and Denali respected and feared him in equal measure. "He is, but he's also a fair man with a much bigger heart than you think." Denali would have to take her word for it. Even if the man was fair toward her and others, that didn't mean he wouldn't be prejudiced against a gay employee befriending the president's son. Even in this White House, a complete lack of homophobia was not a guarantee.